I'm Matt Klaus.
And I'm Tara Kostick.
And in our podcast, we break down movies that use a lot of symbolism, visual cues, and storytelling devices that people don't usually pick up on right away. We break these films down, and then we relay that to you, and hopefully you can either appreciate the movie more or find a new appreciation for a movie you didn't like the first time you saw it.
Mm-hmm. We also have with us Elvis, who is our dog, and he is sleeping beneath the table as we record.
If you hear a noise, that's dog snore.
Or something else from time to time.
Yeah. If you listen to the first episode, you picked up on it.
He's just an old man.
In this episode, most likely a special two-part episode because there was a ton of information in this movie. We're doing Jordan Peele's first screenwritten and solo film, I believe.
Yeah, and directorial debut.
Oh, directorial debut. That's what I was looking for. Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And may have been the movie that heralded the return of the master of horror style director. Between him and Ari Aster, who is the director of Hereditary, and will soon be the director of Midsommar, which is another movie that may be the next live event.
Mm-hmm.
That's our hope, is that we can do another live event that soon.
When does that come out?
August.
Oh, okay.
The cast of Get Out, we have Daniel Kaluuya, who I know originally from Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
This is like my favorite Black Mirror episode. It's called 5 Million Merits.
Uh-huh.
If you have Netflix, and you are easily emotionally disturbed, don't watch it because it is heartbreaking.
Also, did not know he was actually British.
You didn't know he was British?
Yeah, because I didn't see that episode until after the movie.
Kaluuya and the guy that plays Finn in the new Star Wars movies. Why is that? I don't have my phone. You got Google right there.
John Boyega?
Boyega, yes.
It was also in
Attack the Block.
Yes, we love that movie.
Yeah, it's not going to be a stay tuned because it's a pretty straightforward movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't seen Attack the Block, check that out.
It's awesome.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Independent film. Nick Frost making a cameo in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and then Allison Williams, who I have no idea what else she's been in.
Her dad is Brian Williams, who has pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth because he was that newscaster, and I don't remember the scandal exactly, but did he make up like some reports?
Oh, her dad is that Brian Williams.
Yeah.
Made up a report that he was in or near a military plane that was shot down in the Middle East.
Something like that. But he also was well known because, like, Jimmy Fallon, they would do the Brian Williams, like, raps the news of the day. Like, they would put together news clips of him, like he was rapping or something.
Bradley Whitford, who was more in movies in the 90s. He did a lot of movies in the 90s. A lot of you would know him as the bad guy in Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Yeah, with the weasel laugh.
I think he also, I can't think of her name right now, but at one time he was married to the mom from Malcolm in the Middle.
Jane Krasinski.
Jane Krasinski,
no, that's not
is
her
not her.
No.
I think she is a Jane.
And it is a Polish last name. It is
I'll Google it in a minute.
Okay. Catherine Keener, who we'll talk about her character a lot in these, usually plays really nice, really relatable characters. She's the girlfriend in 4-Year-Old Virgin. She always seems like somebody's mom or the best friend character who's spouting good advice. Not so much here. She's pretty devious character.
Yeah, I've never seen her in a role like this
No,
before.
Not at all. This is a stepping out for her, and good for her, because she did great. Lil Rel Howery, who has just recently started making a name for himself, he plays Rod.
Oh, yeah.
He's an awesome stand-up comedian. If you don't watch This Is Not Happening on Comedy Central, he has a really good stand-up set on that show. He also recently made a movie called Uncle Drew. Don't expect much from it. Go in knowing that it's not great. It's just fun.
I don't plan on ever seeing it just because of what you
told
me about it.
Most of the laughs I got were not from jokes in the movie.
Oh, no.
He was laughing at the movie. Nick Kroll just doing his craziness in that movie, and then all of the legendary basketball players in that movie just making fools of themselves. Lisa Leslie in that movie, who is one of the most legendary WNBA players ever, is the only player in that movie that looks like they can still actually move. Shaq can barely walk. Chris Webber's he's not moving too well.
No.
Yeah, who knows? Reggie Miller's gonna live forever. And
I'm not into basketball at all, so this is like going over my head.
Nate Robinson literally doesn't have a line in this movie. Says nothing. They put this wig and beard on him that make him look like Frederick Douglass. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it doesn't say a word. But Lil Rel Howery, he's funny. Oh, he's Bird Box. He always in movies that.
Okay, we've never watched that.
No,
so.
but the big joke that I've seen on the internets is
on the interwebs
is that he seems to be the anonymous wise black man in movies, because in this one and in Bird Box he's spouting this knowledge that the main characters
like guesses the plot of the movie
at the very beginning. And I guess he does the same thing in Bird Box. Yeah. So he's being cast as this sage character, which is funny because he's a comedian. Lakeith Stanfield
it's Lakeith, actually.
Is it Lakeith?
Yeah. Sorry to correct you.
No, I've been reading that wrong for years.
I was saying it like that too, but then I watched the audio commentary. He just calls him Keith most of the time.
That's cool. But he is in this. He's also in a movie that might be a Stay Tuned. Sorry to Bother You might be a Stay Tuned on this here show. Yeah. Because that movie was awesome.
It just went completely crazy at the end.
Yeah.
Like,
we're not going to go too far. I think it's
going one way and then it
whole different direction.
Yeah. Turns upside down.
Caleb Landry Jones, who's good in everything he's in.
Where else did we see him?
3 Billboards Over.
Oh, okay.
3 Billboards Over something, Missouri.
Okay, so it's after midnight right now, and we had a really long day. Like, we were gone all day. And we
are going to throw this 2-part episode down and get it out to you because we hope you all enjoy our show. Caleb Landry Jones is actually British. Didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me like he could be a Culkin brother.
I thought he could be a Gleason.
Oh, yeah.
He could be a Domhnall little brother.
Yeah.
If you don't know who the Gleasons are, look them up. They're great.
Yeah.
Oh, and Bruges.
I don't know who wouldn't know who they are.
And Bruges might be a Stay Tuned. Because En Bruges is
his dad is awesome. He was in 28 Days Later.
Oh, he was in 28 Days Later.
Yeah, but most people know his son now because he's in the new Star Wars movies.
He is. We appreciate more. Also, He was also in a Black Mirror episode.
The
Holy cow!
most depressing
No,
thing ever. I
that
was
beautiful.
bawling. I was bawling.
Okay,
I was like,
we're
oh
not-
my god.
maybe someday one of our Patreon exclusive shows might be us breaking down episodes of Black Mirror.
Mhm.
We're thinking about that.
I think I can probably watch like one episode a year because it really was bringing me down. Like we were watching it for like a week straight.
No, you watched it for 2 days and couldn't do it anymore.
2 days straight, and then I was like, man, like I'm in a dark spot right now.
He's in 3 Billboards. I don't know anything else he's in.
I don't know.
Caleb Landry Jones. Well, we know him from this and 3 Billboards.
Mm-hmm.
Ebbing, Missouri. That's what it was. 3 Billboards over Ebbing, Missouri. That's not another movie that's probably not going to be a stay tuned. It's pretty straightforward, but it is an excellent film. Definitely deserved its Oscar nominations.
For the acting, I had
Rockwell.
some issues with the writing. But
Oh yeah, no, super not how racism works.
no, just because it seemed like one character, no spoilers, like changed overnight too, and that kind of took me out of it.
I can see how that would be taken. I personally thought his arc was the main arc of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Rockwell's character, but it's still not a spoiler. We didn't say anything.
All these episodes contain spoilers anyway.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, you already know there's spoilers coming. If you don't, just press the pause button right now.
Yeah.
Go watch everything we've talked about so far.
Go watch every movie that has ever been made because we are probably bound to bring it up. We go off on tangents sometimes.
4 steps ahead of you. And then Stephen Root, who has been an excellent character actor for decades. Decades. We were kids when Office Space came out. If you haven't seen Office Space and you don't want spoilers, that movie came out 15 years ago. You should have seen it by now.
Well, I always knew him. What was the TV show? Was it News Radio? Was that the show he was on?
You're the one that watches sitcoms. I told you my opinion on sitcoms. Sitcoms are the puns of TV shows.
I was a child. It was the 90s.
The only reason I would know News Radio, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Joe Rogan.
When he had hair.
One of my favorite people on earth. He's been a part of Joe Rogan, especially his stand-up comedy is very influential on my stand-up comedy. And he was the announcer for the UFC forever. If it wasn't for Joe Rogan, the UFC would not have been as successful as it is. Because his color commentary was the best. And then him and Mike Goldberg are both gone now. So, but Stephen Root, if you've seen Office Space, he's the guy who really needs his stapler.
I wasn't expecting that.
There's a line in that movie where he walks up to his boss and says he didn't get paid last week. And then they have a conversation somewhere else about how he got fired a year ago and nobody told him. So he's been coming to work. But Stephen Root's always been a great character actor. Again, in this movie, not like any character he's ever done ever. He's always a comedy background character that's given a line that is going to be a remembered line, but is not integral to the story. In this movie, it's quite different. Devious. Yes. Not that he's a bad guy. He's just selfish.
Yeah.
Ugh. Just ugh.
Alright, so...
Very first scene.
Yeah, the opening shot, it's like the tracking shot of the suburb. Instantly reminded me of Halloween.
And you said that, and I was like, it does kind of look like Halloween.
And then I did watch, I watched the movie with the audio commentary, and he did say it was,
Keep in mind, everybody, she watched the movie with the audio commentary without me.
Well,
So
that's
she's going to
kinda
be dropping
my
a lot of knowledge I'm not in on, which isn't fair, because we didn't go over my history with Jordan Peele yet.
Yeah. No, but that's just kind of my thing, though. Like, I will watch a movie, and then I'll watch it again with the audio commentary. Then I'll go through and I'll watch all the special features. Like, it's like an event for me.
Should we go over my history with Jordan Peele now? Or save it for a different spot, or...
I mean, are we still gonna do the episode on us?
Well, I don't know. But this was an unplanned portion of our conversation.
Let's just stick to the movie, because
Okay.
it's already gonna be long.
Yep. Well, this is going to be a 2-part episode. We're going to have to release this as one part. We're going to do about an hour and 20 minutes, and then we're going to record part 2, release them at different times, keep you guys interested, because it's fun. There's so much information in this. It took us an hour and 45 minutes to get through the first half hour of the movie.
Even in his audio commentary, there is a point where he was having trouble keeping up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, there's just a lot going on.
This first shot is actually something I have friends that can relate to. You're on the phone trying to find where you're going in a part of town that you've never been to because it's way nicer than the part of town you're actually from. This character Dre, who this is Lakeith Stanfield's character. He's on the phone, and from what we hear from the conversation, he's talking to someone that we don't know at the time who it is. That he can't find the road that they keep saying is where they are.
Yeah. So the question is, do you think it's Rose that he was talking
no,
to?
Definitely Rose. Like that.
I mean, there's still that theory that people don't know exactly who he was talking to, and maybe Jeremy was just driving around randomly.
Nah.
No.
That was Rose. So he's talking and he's walking, and a car drives by, and he notices the car. Everybody from my
It's
side.
a white car, and Jordan Peele did say he kind of wanted the car to be like a reminiscent of Jaws, like to be like a shark, and a mix-up of Christine as well.
Oh man.
And Duel.
He was dropping the audience
And
into
then,
the murky waters. Oh, that was a
the
good joke.
hedgerows.
That was a joke on accident. The murky waters. Whoops.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
The hedgerows are similar to The Shining, so
Yes.
there are all of these like references.
And this is literally
in
the
the
first
very
shot of it.
first
This is the
shot.
very first shot. The camera turns on all the references ever. So the car comes back around, and he knows, and
he does start walking away, like he understands
this
something is not right.
I'm trying to extricate myself from this situation.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it. When the door to the car opens, significantly, there's a song from the 30s playing. It's by post-World War II singers Flanagan and Allen, who I know nothing about. Like, don't get me wrong, that was something I had to research. And the name of the song is Run, Rabbit, Run.
Which Jordan Peele seems to have a thing with rabbits.
The rabbit imagery with Jordan Peele, if you've also seen Us, we're not going to go into it, but rabbits are a major piece of imagery in Us. It's almost like he uses rabbits as the mentioning of rabbits or the imagery of rabbits as the things that get hurt that have nothing to do with the actual conflict. It's always something outside of the conflict of his films or the conflict of his writing that's getting hurt, and they don't have anything to do with it. But the song is Run, Rabbit, Run, which it comes up 3 times in the movie.
Elvis is snoring very loudly.
Really loud. He uses rabbits often. So if you've seen both of his films, even in Keanu, there's some rabbit talk. If you've seen Keanu, also written by Jordan Peele.
So that was actually like his first
movie.
movies, but this was like his
directorial.
Yeah.
Yes. I had to look it up and listen to it on YouTube. Yeah, it's one of those things because Jordan Peele gives away his plots, always gives away the whole plot of his movie in the first 3-4 shots of the movie. He'll give away the entire plot, and you won't know until it's over, and then you'll think back and go, "Oh my God, how did I not realize that?" And so the song "Run Rabbit Run" gives away a couple pieces.
Yeah, see, when I first saw this movie, I did like it a lot, but then,
We started making this episode.
Yeah, doing our notes on it and realizing, like, how intricate every detail is just made me appreciate it so much more.
Okay, everybody, I tried to tell her. And we watched it together previous to making the episode, and then we watched it again to make the episode. And it wasn't until this time that she got what I was trying to say. It's such a minutely made film. It's almost Kubrick in its specific things that it tries to implement.
Which there is a lot of stuff in this movie that is inspired by The Shining, especially. Even the credits are in a blue color, like The Shining. Yeah.
He, in Eli Roth's School of Horror TV show, also says that this is a possession film. He puts this in the same genre of film as The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, and it's a possession film. It's something taking over your body that is not of you. Something malicious taking over your body. So, I'm sure those films, like The Shining, because that is a possession film. That I can see how he would try to work those in specifically.
Right.
So, the car stops, door opens, Run Rabbit Run is playing, and a man in a black knight's helmet comes out, and if you blink, you miss this helmet.
Yeah, because it's on the cover of the movie, and I was like, what is that shot from?
It's in two...
I totally forgot about it.
It's in two scenes in the whole movie. This one and the very end. Because it takes the car to leave at the end. And it's on the passenger seat.
Oh, okay.
See?
I didn't
we
notice
took notes
that.
on the movie, and there's still stuff we missed.
I was probably so busy writing that I looked down for like 2 seconds.
The man in the black mask puts Dre, the character that was walking, in a rear naked choke, and then pulls on him. We see Dre go limp, drags him to the car. We see the trunk open, and then it instantly cuts to black. And this is where we get a score.
Michael Abels?
Michael Abels, who also did the score for Us. A score by Michael Abels, who does excellent work. And the vocal is in Swahili. You're the one that did the research on what the...
The lyrics loosely translate to "Listen to your ancestors, something bad is coming, run."
Which again, we get that run. And listen to your ancestors might not mean people who are related to you who have died. It could also mean people who have been in your situation first. Pay attention to them. Because and that actually makes sense if you look at the name of the film, because the lyric is said by someone who is already in the situation.
He did say he wanted to make the kind of horror movie where the whole time you want the audience thinking, like, the title, like, get out, like, you just want the audience saying that the whole time.
Yes. And you kind of do.
Yeah.
This opening shot is very reminiscent of The Shining, if you really think about it. Like, just showing the walls, and his entire apartment is blue. There's blue. This first scene and a half, you'll notice that everything is blue.
And you see his photographs on the wall. He's an urban photographer.
Yes.
Very talented.
The blue, you see, he is wearing blue. She is wearing blue. Oh no, she's wearing black.
Well, we first see her, she's buying him donuts.
And there was a question here that Tara raised that I couldn't really give an answer to. Like, I couldn't tell.
I rewatched it and I was wrong. I thought, because there is, like, that moment where she kind of looks up and smiles, and I thought maybe she was looking at her reflection in the display case, but it didn't really look like that. But it is that kind of, that smirk that she has, that kind of, like, up to no good smirk that you see later
Smirky
in the movie. Yeah.
I hate that character. I hate the Rose character so much. While this first scene after the credits is playing, Childish Gambino, who my two favorite people in all of show business right now are Jordan Peele and Donald Glover, and so we have Childish Gambino's song Redbone playing over this.
Which is pretty much saying, stay woke.
Yeah, pay attention. People are moving in on you. You protect yourself. But keep doing you. Stay who you are. And it's...
Before, like, he's even in that situation, you have all these signs telling him to get out. And if you think about it, like, it is because he has been with Rose, and those warning signs have kind of been there their whole relationship, probably.
This is kind of the movie telling us that the red flags have been there, but as we learn about Chris as a character, he's such a good guy. He's just a genuinely good person. He's been poo-pooing these signs, which he does.
I mean, they get along well. They both have that sense of humor, but then as the movie goes on, she doesn't really show any empathy. She kind of just makes jokes out of everything, like, kind of at his expense to make him feel like, oh, it's all in your head. And he's clearly the catch in the relationship, though, I think.
After she gets back with the breakfast or whatever, he gets out of the shower, we see him shaving and getting ready.
Which he's putting on the white shaving cream, and I was listening to the audio commentary.
Is that really a thing?
Yeah. Yep, that was a sign.
Whoa! It was literally every shot in this film.
Like the shot of him looking in the mirror, because there's a lot that has to do with, like, mirrors and reflections in the movie. Yeah.
The first conversation they have, the legitimate conversation they have, she mentions a couple things as toiletries, the normal stuff you would take, and then she specifically mentions, make sure you have your cozy clothes, like your pajamas, which are actually significantly important later, when it comes to the symbolism of it.
Every line in this movie,
the first
has
half hour, 45 minutes, every single line has some significance.
Yeah.
And when you realize that, you appreciate this screenplay to its full ability.
It did win the Academy Award
for Best Screenplay,
and rightfully so, because every line
Oof.
just,
We talk about that, and I get a little tear in my eye every time because my favorite Oscar moment of my lifetime is is Keegan-Michael Key watching the Oscar, like he's like backstage or in a green room, and they have it on screen, and then they announce that Jordan won, and he jumped up and down and did that scream.
Yeah.
Cried like a baby for like 10 minutes because Mad TV, Key and Peele.
Oh yeah.
I've always loved them.
Yeah.
Like they've been two of my favorites since I was a little kid. So it's like we made it. It's like that was the big they made it moment. Like
it's crazy to think that someone could have such an impact on like the comedy scene and now on like the horror genre.
Yeah. And not just horror. He calls it social horror. It's horror whose message, usually horror's message is underlying. You kind of have to make your own inference. His horror is a direct like he look at this, like it makes you pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And it's so great. Like I'm just a fan, and I'm so proud of what he's done because it's not something you usually see.
I also want to give a shout out to Sid, who is the character Chris's dog. Because anytime I see a dog,
she literally goes
like, dog.
The first conversation they have, she mentions the cozy clothes, and he kind of stops the conversation dead and says, "Hey, does your family even know I'm black?" And she kind of poo-poos it. No, it's fine. They don't have to. Why does that matter? The line...
The Obama line.
Oh, man. This line comes up so many times, and if you once you understand what's going on, you're like, oh... Which I'll explain it later when it comes up, the really important
Basically,
time.
he just says, like, oh, my dad would have voted for Obama for a third term if he could.
Yeah, she says, if he could have, my dad could have would have voted for Obama for the third term. It means more than it sounds like. She says, no, he's concerned that they'll be upset or taken aback at the very least. And she's trying to calm him down about it. It's fine. My family has no problem with black people. She makes a there's literally a direct line where she says, my family are not racists.
Yeah.
The marketing, I feel like Jordan Peele made it so that the marketing in this film made it look like a film about racism to give you that preconceived bias coming in. And it's honestly not the case. And we'll explain why it's not, but it's such a sideways way of looking at it. It's about negative race relations, but not racism as we think of it.
I mean, yeah, there is the racism in the movie, but it's just a challenging way that maybe, I mean, with us being white, maybe we had never really, thought of it before. Because
no, I can completely understand where it's coming from. Like the idea behind it. I understand what he was saying.
But I mean,
right. We wouldn't know how it goes about because it never happened to us. It can't happen to us. The Obama line. She also tells him, and I wrote a little number 2 here, because it's the second lie she tells in a row. She says he's the first black guy she ever dated. If you haven't seen the movie yet, this is where you pause, because we're jumping into the hard spoilers right now. She says he's the first black guy she's ever dated. That is a freaking lie. The worst kind of lie.
Well, she's just a terrible human being.
She's a horrible human, yeah.
But very well acted.
Yes.
By Allison Williams.
Awesomely acted, actually.
Yeah.
This is where we get more Blue, because he
Mhm.
calls his buddy Rod, and his buddy Rod is a TSA agent here. The entire airport, side of the airport set, is blue. It's this Argyle blue pattern, and even Rod's uniform is bluer than you would think a TSA agent's uniform would be. And the blue here, hold on, my note. The blue represents Chris's true self, his urban self, himself as a photographer. Whenever Chris feels like himself, is when you see that blue. Is the what what's her name? Nadine Haters, who would be the costume designer. That was her comment, according to Vogue magazine. I believe my citation was.
What about when he's in his cozy clothes, though?
We'll get into that when he gets into his cozy clothes. We're not that far yet.
Well, I know, but you just mentioned the fact that he's most himself when he's wearing the blue, but then how do you...
I'll explain once we get to the cozy clothes.
Okay. Alright. Can your voice go any higher than that?
I could do the whole Stewie... Are you writing a novel? They're driving on the way to... This is another scene that's very reminiscent of The Shining. So when they're driving, we got the trees on both sides, the winding road. We get a camera shot down towards the car.
Yeah.
The car is red, which is significant later. I will talk about red later too. But it is reminiscent of the opening scene of The Shining when they are driving on a winding road through the woods.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beginning and the ending of The Shining. Is that road?
The beginning.
It's the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen The Shining. And they hit a deer. The deer is another animal of significance, symbolism-wise, in this film. The deer represents, first, his mother, the story of which comes into play later.
they stop the car and then he hears the deer like crying out in pain.
She's trying to, oh no, it's probably gone, it ran away.
Yeah, like she doesn't care.
At all. Ugh.
Which is one of the first time, when you watch it again and you're like, oh yeah, this girl is no good.
The first time you watch it though, you're like, she just wants to go.
Yeah.
He sees the deer.
Like she seems more upset about the damage to the car.
He sees the deer and he gets emotional, and they kind of, just a quick flash of her face, and she is blank. Like she's almost like mad he's emotional over it.
Yeah, she doesn't understand.
She doesn't.
Because he hasn't ever really told her the story.
Nope.
Of his mom, so.
No, I think that only comes up. I think that's why the hypnotism scene is so significant, is because it's not something that he tells people. And then he says, we should call somebody. She says no, and then the cops are there. So we know how that conversation went down. When the police officer is talking, he's asking some questions, normal police officer questions, looks at him, asks for his ID.
And he's being compliant.
He's cool about, here you
but
go.
Then Rose starts.
Ooh, she lays into this cop, and you think the first time you watch it, she's defending him because technically the cop didn't have, in all technicality, the cop didn't have a right to ask for his ID. There was no reason for him to ask. Watching it the second time, you understand she's trying to keep anybody from having a knowledge that Chris was in the area. Because
before the cop even turns his attention on Chris, she's telling the cop that, oh, I have family in the Lake Pontico area.
Right.
And that's where they're headed.
Right.
So, yeah, you think she's just, standing up for Chris, and she's like this warrior for him, but it does make sense that she just wouldn't want anyone to be able to track him.
Yeah, keep knowledge of where he's going and what he's doing down to as much of a minimum as possible.
Yeah.
After the... Oh. I lost where I was a minute. Oh, there it is. So they get to the house. The door opens. Mom does. It seems like a normal family greeting. And then Bradley Whitford starts dropping these my mans. And
yeah.
and it's hard to watch. And I think it's done so well on purpose where you're just like, eat, cringe, ow, stop with the my man and how's it going, brother? And you, oof, stop.
Yeah.
And that's done intentionally.
I did laugh at the line where Rose is telling her parents how they hit the deer, and she was like, "It just fruck us out."
Yeah, it
fruck us out.
There's a couple of fruckins here,
and
I wonder where that came from.
That's
screenplay wise.
Yeah, because she doesn't really. There's nothing really outstanding about her personality and stuff.
So her swearing would have really thrown the screenplay.
But I don't. Just the fact that she made up the word like that is funny.
It's also a testament to his screenwriting that he isn't afraid to write in a character saying something accidentally. Write it. People, I do it twice a day where I go to say a word and two words come out at the same time. And you just mix these two words. You don't know why it went together like that. And he is savvy enough as a screenwriter to write that into a script. It's not something you see elsewhere.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. Just wasn't big on this character, but then I've always wondered, what's so great about her? What does she really do with herself? He's this talented photographer, and she has that dry sense of humor, but then you think about it, she was the one pursuing him, so it wasn't like he was going after her,
right.
She wasn't this, great catch or anything.
Later in the movie, we learn that she does have an exceptional talent. Yeah. This is where we get this rant by Bradley Whitford's character. Dean Armitage is the character's name. Which, holy white name. I thought I had a white name. And then I heard Dean Armitage. And I was like, wait. I'm glad. Matt Klaus. I ended with Matt Klaus. He was on a rant here about deer.
How he hates deer. How they're taking over the population.
Yeah, there's too many of them. They need to be wiped out. They're like rats. This rant, if you listen to it close enough, you can replace the word deer with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's written that way on purpose, where it sounds like he's saying deer, but it doesn't sound like he's saying deer. He's saying deer, but it sounds like something else. And when you think of it, the first time you watch it, you're like, man, this guy has a problem with bovine. And then the second time you watch it, you go, oh no, he doesn't. He has a problem with a lot of things, but he ain't talking about deer. It's hard to listen to. Deer, also, I didn't finish the significances here. Yes, they represent his mom, especially in the scene where they hit one. But they also overall represent a uniform death of innocence. So a death of innocence over the course of over in a general sense. So deer dying overall. When he says all the deer should be wiped out, it's the death of the innocence of all the deer. And that's especially why later on in the movie a mounted deer head is significant, because it is a dead innocent being.
Yeah.
That is put there for entertainment.
Yeah, and he does make that comment that every time he sees a dead deer on the side of the road,
good.
Yeah.
Good. They should all be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Ew. Stop.
Just how fitting that would be, related in a way to his demise.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That does come full circle, doesn't it? I just got that one, too.
Mm-hmm.
We're making the episode. I'm still learning things. They're walking through the hallway. We see a deer statue as they start walking.
Yeah, there's also like a quick shot of the family photo and the grandparents.
Yes,
I'm
I was
assuming just standing in front of the house.
I was getting to the conversation here, looking at the family photos.
Yeah, you see the photo of Dean's dad, and then this is where it goes into
Woo!
Interesting conversation.
Yeah. He makes sure to point out that Hitler's idea of a perfect race, of a perfect Aryan race. Now he says perfect Aryan race.
Mm-hmm.
That Hitler's idea of the perfect Aryan race was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he says that is because he's literally implying that black people are a more perfect race than Aryans. That's the implication he's making here as a character. Is that Aryans were not perfect, that's bullshit. Black people are a more perfect race.
So his dad was defeated by Jesse Owens at the qualifying rounds for the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which...
historically, Jesse Owens went to those Olympics and walked over Hitler's.
And many countries were boycotting it because the Nazis were in power. And so Dean points out that moment was his dad's claim to fame.
That was his claim.
That was like the turning point of his life.
I think the words is defining moment of his life, isn't it? Where he says it was the defining moment of his life.
Maybe. I have claim to fame.
Is it?
Written down.
And Chris says, tough break for your dad, and the line he comes back with is, he almost got over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which implies he never actually got over it.
Yeah.
We learn later, he never even almost got over it.
And then he makes that comment, it's such a privilege to be able to experience another person's culture.
Oof. That is the hot dog in the pig's blanket. It's telling you what he's doing. That's literally saying out loud what they do. They go into the backyard after that conversation. They're walking.
First they go to the kitchen. Well, they pass the basement door.
You got all these.
Yeah, he makes the comment how, we should seal the basement because there's black mold down there.
Right. It's covered in black mold.
And then he talks a little bit about his mom and how she loved the kitchen. The kitchen was her favorite.
Yeah, so they keep a piece of her in there.
Yeah, the kitchen was her favorite room in the house. They keep a piece of her in there. And then there's that shot of Georgina.
Straight to the Georgina character. And these characters, the Georgina and Walter characters, are disturbing. Mm-hmm. They're acted to a T by actors that I did not write their names down, which I probably should have.
She was in, I forget her name. I think her name is Betty. She was in Upgrade.
Oh, she was the detective in Upgrade. Ooh, that's a stay tuned.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Starring not Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
His name is Logan. Logan Austin Green.
Are you thinking of Brian Austin Green from 90210?
I don't know. What's his name?
I think it's Logan Michael. No, but the first time I saw him was in one of the Alien movies, and I thought he was Tom Hardy first time I saw him.
This guy is just as good of an actor as Tom Hardy. He is. He's on the same level as Tom Hardy. I believe that the reason he's not as famous as he should be is because he is a dead ringer for Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as physically large, but he's just as good of an actor, and they look almost exactly the
Oh,
same.
his name is Logan Marshall Green.
Logan Marshall Green.
And then she is Betty Gabriel.
Betty Gabriel. Oh.
The actress, that's her name in real life.
Oh.
Georgina.
Okay.
Is Betty Gabriel.
Okay, Logan Marshall Green has nothing to do with this movie. But the film Upgrade, possible, stay tuned on the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent one. Good stuff.
Yeah.
What was the second? Where were we? Oh, Georgina.
Yes.
We were introduced to the Georgina character, and she is haunting. That is not... These two characters are played to a T. The Georgina and Walter characters.
Yeah. So then, this is when they go out to the backyard.
They go to the backyard, and I noted that he calls the backyard the field of play, and he's very blatant about using that term. The definition of field of play, the explicit definition, means where a game happens.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling him that somewhat of a game is going to happen in that backyard.
Which we know now, this is where they play bingo for the auction.
Yeah. Yep.
And so he makes a comment that the nearest neighbor is across the lake, and the house has total privacy. And I don't think he mentioned it in the audio commentary, but this made me think of the 1960 movie Eyes Without a Face.
Which actually is very similar.
Because,
very similar movie.
Yeah, you have this doctor performing surgeries, like, right in his house.
Yeah.
And I just...
Kidnapping people to perform surgeries.
Yeah.
And it's just like this.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I? Oh, the field of play. We see Walter for the first time here also.
Mm-hmm.
Not looking too great, not looking too happy.
Walter's the groundskeeper.
He's the groundskeeper. And he is not looking too happy. He's got sourpuss face on right here. And that becomes significant later.
So we find out Georgina and Walter, we are told, were hired to care for his parents, and that after they died, they couldn't bear to let them go.
Couldn't bear to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
They were hired to take care of our parents, and when they died, we couldn't bear to let them go. Which, if you change the punctuation of that sentence around, he is not talking about the servants.
Mm-hmm.
He is talking about the parents.
Yeah.
Couldn't bear to let the parents go. We really start to get a sense from Daniel Kaluuya's acting in this scene, because things are so odd, and he is in this odd situation. You can tell that he feels awkward.
I mean, it's already an awkward situation for him to begin with.
But it's especially here that he's really conveying that Chris is such a mellow, level-headed guy. He's just, it's cool. This happens to people all the time where they're in these awkward situations. I'm just going to play it cool, and it'll be fine. And you really pick that up just from the way Kaluuya's playing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the yard. Oh, during this walk is when the Obama line.
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
I would have voted for Obama a third time. Best president of our lifetime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to disagree with that. Because it's the truth. But he doesn't say it like that's what he means. He's saying it like there's an underlying meaning there also. Nothing this Dean Armitage character says comes out like it's what he actually means.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very underhanded way of speaking, which is played excellently by Bradley Whitford. There's no better way to... I could not see another actor playing this, which is funny because he's not the horror movie actor either.
I mean, he did Cabin in the Woods.
Which one? The original?
The Cabin in the Woods. Remember the
I think that
end? He
was
was
too.
one of the lab guys.
Nope.
Really?
Nope. I don't. Oh, he's
Yeah.
dancing the whole time. You said Cabin in the Woods, and for some reason my mind went to Cabin Fever. I was like, what are you talking about? No,
Oh, God.
Cabin in the Woods, yes. Yes, no, he was one of the lab guys the whole time. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Cabin Fever. Let it be known I am not a big Eli Roth fan.
Second Eli Roth reference in this episode.
Let's just...
Eli Roth.
I mean, he seems
if
like...
you hear this, say hi. Because, let's be honest, you were the Bear Jew, and that's an awesome character.
Yeah, like, I loved him in Inglourious Bastards, and he seems like a cool person,
His show on, what was it, A&E?
Yeah, that was cool, but...
School of Horror, that was excellent.
His movies have always just fallen short for me, and The Green Inferno was so bad.
Once he fell into the torture porn trap,
yeah,
I couldn't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The Hostel films, they're good movies until the scary stuff starts happening, because it's not even scary.
His movies
it's just
will
torture
start off strong, and then like The Green Inferno. That first death scene was pretty intense, but then it just went, the cliched route that you usually see in, like, slasher movies.
So, they're asking about, after the walk, they're having tea at a table, dinette set in that backyard, and they're asking about his family. Now, if you watch this the first time, you think, oh, they're asking normal questions that you ask to someone the first time you meet them.
Heartburn?
Nope, trying not to burp.
Oh.
You'd think they're asking normal questions. You think they're just being curious about somebody that they're just meeting. They are not. When they ask, what does your family do? Do you have any brothers or sisters? Do you live with anyone? These are all questions to see what his connections to the outside world are. When he says, my dad was never in the picture, my mom passed away, no brothers or sisters, I live by myself, he is alone in the world, and if he disappeared, they're assuming it would take a long time for anybody to know he was gone.
Which, unfortunately, happens a lot, like, in the media and stuff, too, with kids that go missing, like, you always hear more about, like, the white, like, girls that go missing.
And have these big favors, but the biases there are evident, which I feel like is a reason this movie was written the way it was, is to point out those biases in another way. They really get into him for smoking here.
Well, first you notice, like, the tapping. You initially think, the tapping is, like, because he needs his vice, he needs his cigarettes, but you find out later, like, the tapping has kind of always been... It's a nervous
like tick
a
nervous,
for him. Yeah.
And it's not for any other reason other than it's an anxiety that was built due to almost PTSD from when his mom died.
Yeah.
They get right into him about smoking. Ooh, harshly. And the reason is they don't want anything happening to his body.
Yeah.
They get into him for smoking. First time you watch it, they just don't like the act of smoking. Every time after that, you go, they don't want him to be damaged goods.
Yeah.
Because it's just a sale to them. And nobody's going to want a body with damaged lungs.
Right. And so then we see Georgina comes over, she starts pouring the tea, and I believe Dean is talking about his parents again, and then when he hits the after they died line, she kind of just like zones out while she's pouring the tea.
Wait, did we skip the big get-together part of the conversation?
The big get.
Yeah, when they start talking about the big get-together, and Rose goes, is that this weekend? And she's like surprised by the fact that the big get-together is this week. Oh, it's the same day every year. And she says, no, it's not. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. And,
well, I didn't write that down.
watching it the first time, you're like, oh man, she was just never paying attention to something that happened regularly, that happened annually at the house.
Mm-hmm.
You watch it anytime after that, and you're like, holy cow, this is a rehearsed act. Wow, they've rehearsed it. They've done this. They've had this same conversation over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, oh, the big get together is this weekend. Oh man, I didn't even realize. And this is the only time where you're like, at the second go around on this, or any time after, you realize she's playing this conversation for the cheap seats. This conversation does not have to be as dramatic as the Rose character makes it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, great acting by Allison Williams here. Yes, the line comes up when my parents died. Georgina is pouring tea when it's said, and the camera is on the Georgina character, and it's said, and there's just no emotion on her face, and she keeps pouring the tea until it overflows onto the table.
Yeah, she just like zones out, and you can tell something is not right with her.
Right.
And I think it's because once he hit that line, like after they died, like I don't know the original character's name, but
The mom's
she was
name?
Georgina.
Oh yeah, they never really get into the
Yeah.
original body of Georgina's
Mhm.
name.
Mm-hmm.
But
She's trying to break through.
yeah. Either that or I thought something different. I thought that was the mother character realizing that as who she was isn't who she is anymore. Like she wanted to still be the Dean's mother character, and she wasn't. So after they died, she had to realize she was dead. Her body was dead, in all technicality.
Oh, I didn't see it that way, because I figured before they died, they knew like what was going to happen to them.
It would still be a difficult thing to deal with, even if you are a sociopath.
Hmm.
The big get together. That's what it happens literally at the moment of the mother line. She overflows the tea.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from the tea scene to this dinner conversation.
And
because
this is
the
where
brother shows up.
Yep, we meet Jeremy.
Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
the second most despicable character. Caleb Landry Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they casted this, because you don't see the character and the person. You don't see them coinciding, but the way he plays it is so excellent.
I noticed like he's quick to like talk back to the dad, but the mom has such a subtle power. Like
she delivers her lines with a sternness.
Yeah, and he listens to her like instantly.
I didn't pick up on that either.
Yeah, so they're having the conversations, and he's asking Chris if he's into like fighting and stuff like that, and then he wants to get up and show him some moves, and Missy is the mom's name.
Yes, Missy.
She's like, Jeremy, and he instantly just like looks at her and stops what he's doing.
The conversation, the part of the conversation that I wrote down on that is he asked him if he's into mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
And he says, no, not really. It's not my bag. A little too brutal for me. And he says, with your frame and genetic makeup.
Yeah, he's like, if you really hit the gym hard,
I'm not.
You could be a beast.
Yeah, no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to with your but he really says with your frame and genetic makeup.
Yeah.
Which is like, first off, don't say that.
Yeah, he's definitely not as polished as like the rest of the family.
The racism is not as subtle with Jeremy as with everyone else. And then he gets up, he's like, "Oh, here, I'll show you," and that's when the Missy character.
Well, because he also talks about how he enjoys it. What kind of fighting style is he into exactly?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, he talks about how it's like chess.
Yep, which it is. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is beautiful art. Shout out to the Gracies. We hope you hear us eventually.
Oh, and then Mom brings in a carrot cake.
Oh. the significance of him saying of her telling him to not choke him, because again, they can't sell something that's damaged, which we run into that problem with Jeremy a couple times.
Yeah.
That he wants to hurt stuff, and you can't hurt them.
Yeah.
The mom, Missy, says, "I'm gonna go get dessert." She walks into the kitchen. When the kitchen door flaps back and forth, that Georgina character is staring daggers into the dining room.
Oh, she's so creepy.
Oh, it's so great. The Missy character comes back, and she's carrying a carrot cake. What else could there be?
Run, rabbit,
rabbit, run. Like, and it's so... And, like, she says... She asks him if he wants carrot cake, and he says, "No, thank you." Which... Come on, man. The signs are all there. Yep. Rabbits also pursue the game. So it is kind of a game to them. A game meaning what you would hunt. So when you say game, you would call deer or rabbits or whatever you're hunting would be called the game. He calls the field of play the yard where a game happens. There's a lot of wordplay here that Jordan Peele really... how many pencils he'd had to gone through to do that correctly.
There's even signs in the set design, because after this scene, they're together in Rose's room. She has a lion stuffed animal on her nightstand, and then there's also this poster on her wall.
Yes.
It says Death Cheetah versus Matter, which it turns out means Death Cheater, which is
a play about Satanists trying to de-age themselves.
And is pretty much the family's intent to cheat death.
And, de-age themselves.
And the lion, because...
female lions.
Yeah.
Female lions bring the game, the prey, back to the rest of the pride.
Which is what she does.
That her job is as a lioness who would bring the... Which also, I made the joke when we watched this together the first time, because that bitch is lying. That bitch is lying. Chris, this is where we see Chris in his quote-unquote cozy clothes for the first time. The significance... You wanted me to get to this earlier.
Yeah.
The significance of these cozy clothes, according to Nadine Haters, the costume designer and producer of the movie, is these clothes, color-wise, are all gray. From his hoodie to his socks, all these clothes are gray, which puts him in that, which becomes significant specifically in the hypnotism scene coming up, because that's where he is in between black and white. Gray lives in the space between black and white.
Right.
And after the hypnotism scene, that's where they're setting him up to be, is in that space between black and white.
But earlier you had mentioned the blue clothes.
Being when he feels himself. When he feels as himself. Yeah.
Alright.
That article was great. Look up, I believe it's Vogue. I have it bookmarked on my phone, but my phone is not currently in the studio. Vogue magazine interview with Nadine Haters, circa early 2017, where she breaks down the use of color in the costumes in this movie. She basically said Jordan Peele already knew what he wanted to do.
Well,
like, he
believe it,
He already had it down in his head. He goes outside. He kind of sneaks outside, smokes a cigarette here. He's got to sneak out.
Yeah.
And this is where we meet Walter. This is where we meet Walter.
This is a pretty creepy shot too.
He smoked a cigarette, and I love the way it's shot because the lighting. I wonder if they used the natural lighting coming off of his house, like the external lights of the house to light it, because the light goes out just to the tree line and stops.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we see Walter just trucking. Walter running at top speed directly at Chris.
And directly at the camera.
Directly to camera, which we
Yeah.
can only assume is Chris's eye.
And then he just turns at that very last second.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's an instant shot because he's kind of like, what? And then he turns around and Georgina is at the window.
Georgina's at the window.
But she's not looking at him. She's looking at her own reflection.
And when you see her here playing with her hair, she's looking at her reflection. She's kind of playing with the front of her hair.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn what that is later, specifically. But he has... okay, one of my problems with movies and TV shows, and I've talked about this with you before, nobody ever finishes a cigarette.
Yeah.
I'm a smoker. I know I shouldn't. It's a horrible habit. I've been doing it most of my life. If I don't smoke all of my... A, I feel like I wasted money. And B, I almost need to smoke another cigarette because I'm not, like, fully satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this movie, it just carries on that frustrating trope of people getting down to, like, they smoke, like, 2/3 of a cigarette, and are like, well, I'm done with this. No. Anyway, he throws a cigarette. He's like, screw this. I'm going back in.
He goes inside and he locks the door right away.
He locks the door behind him, knowing full well, because of the conversation earlier, there's no one around. There's no one. Like he said, the closest house is on the other side of the lake. So he knows there's no one else around.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost locking the door out of that PTSD, that nervous tic that we talk about with him, because he makes sure to do it quietly.
Or just the instinct, like always trust your instinct. If you feel like something is not right, most likely that is the case.
Mm-hmm. Your phone is going to go off. Your phone's going to go off once per episode.
Like my notification sound on my phone is a line of dialogue from the Great British Bake Off.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, watch the Netflix season. It's fun. He's walking down the hallway, and there is Catherine Keener's Missy character, who is creepy as shit. Oof.
Just very intimidating.
Calculating.
She doesn't have to do very much.
Nope. She's usually super likable, but she does a great job being. I feel the actual scariest character in this, like the scariest individual bad character in this. She is the scariest
because it's real. It could be a real person, and
what she does.
She's a psychiatrist, so that makes it even more scary.
She is a person that could exist.
Yeah.
Easily.
And you might think she's trying to help you, but she's really manipulating you.
She gets after him for smoking. She really gets after him for smoking here.
She's like, do you smoke in front of my kid?
Yes. The reason she's getting after him is to put him on the psychological defensive. If he's being defensive, it would be easier to push that and then pull suggestibility backwards.
Right.
She makes sure he's comfortable in this chair, which the same chair becomes significant at the end of the movie.
And he's doing the tapping thing.
Just tapping on the chair.
On
He's
the
like,
end of the
picking at it with his fingernails.
Yeah.
And
she's just stirring the tea.
Oh, this is where we're introduced to that fucking teacup. That is the scariest movie weapon since Freddy Krueger wore a glove.
So she's kind of explaining what?
The teacup.
Yeah.
If you watch the production cards, Jordan Peele's production company is called Monkey's Paw Productions, and it is a monkey's paw stirring a teacup.
Didn't you say also she's wearing like a red ring?
Wearing a red ring.
But you really have to like look for it.
You gotta pay attention to see it.
Because the red is like that sign of a secret society.
Yes. I was gonna wait till the party scene to explain the red, but fine, I'll do it now.
Yeah,
we'll do it live.
Some things come early.
Right.
Let's go with it. But
okay, so the whenever you see the color red in this film, it is representative of a specific secret society that he's referencing in this movie. It's the secret society of the people that you see in the bad people that you see in the movie are represented by this red color.
But anyway, she is kind of explaining hypnosis to him and what she does, and she says that she uses focal points to heighten what
The
is
set
that?
design here.
Yeah.
Everything's gray. Everything is either gray or in a muted earth tone, and that is to show you that the space that the two of them are in here is them in that in-between space. That is them kind of floating in the ether between that black and white, and it's the set design and the costume design in this tell just as much of the story.
So she's using the teacup and the spoon to condition him, and she's asking him to go back and remember the day that his mom died.
Ugh.
So he had been home alone, waiting for her. I believe she was at work.
She was at work. She's on her way home from work.
Which, I grew up with a single mom, so this scene kind of hit a little close because I remember being really young and like looking out the window waiting for my mom to get home from work. But he was watching TV and she just never came home, and he waited.
Now she makes him feel guilty about this. She pushes his guilt on this, which he was 11, I think they say. If they say, I didn't catch it. I believe they say 11.
I don't know if I remember.
But she plays on his guilt here, even though what's an 11-year-old?
Yeah, he was 11.
Yeah, what's an 11-year-old boy gonna do? Like,
yeah.
What is he just supposed to go wander and look for her? Like, there's a lot of playing on him for being guilty about his mom dying. But it's not like it happened right outside of the house.
And it was a rainy day, and so she's asking him to focus on the rain, and he can start, he can actually hear the rain.
You start to be able to hear the rain as the audience. He said, I found it. And when she realizes that, yes, he found it, that's when,
And so he was waiting for his mom to get home, and he was scratching, I think, his bedpost. That's when he started doing the scratching, and his mom had been hit in a hit and run and basically left on the side of the road.
Here, again, we have to point out Daniel Kaluuya's acting. We get that iconic shot, that crazy iconic shot of him with his eyes wide open and tears just streaming.
Because he can't move. He can move his hands.
Yes.
But he's paralyzed.
Which is the way he felt then when he was worried about his mom.
And he was afraid to call someone because he was afraid of making it real.
Because then it would make it real.
Yeah.
So Daniel Kaluuya, how he opened his eyes this wide and then held them had to have been physically painful. But then we also get him these tears.
Yeah.
And this look on his face, and it's iconic in the sense that it is a shot that will live on after this movie. That will be imitated very soon. We're going to see that in more movies.
So basically what she's doing, because he can't move or anything, and she's pretty much comparing him not being able to move to him not doing anything when his mom hadn't come home.
Right.
And then this is where we first see the sunken place, and then this is where we are going to end
part
the
1.
first
Ooh,
part of this episode.
This was the perfect spot to end, too. This is where we get introduced to the sunken place.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to tune in for episode 2, part 2,
Yeah.
when we drop it. We're thinking we're gonna try to drop an episode from now on once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to. It's no guarantee. This is a little more difficult than we thought it would be because we're still working on doing this around life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super fun, and we work on it all the time. I have in my notes that I have to remember to say share, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Rating and reviewing is what helps Facebook know that people like our show.
Mm-hmm.
So if you rate and review, Facebook's going to say, hey, people like this show, maybe we should show other people the show. And that's how we move up in the world. Rates and reviews are how we're going to be able to get ourselves onto Spotify and iTunes and CastBox and wherever else podcasts are given.
Or if you have any comments or questions, or if you want to be on an episode.
We're going to try to start getting guests.
Mm-hmm.
There's
We've
a couple
already
people.
talked about it with a few people.
A couple really cool people.
Yeah.
One of the most famous tattoo artists in Saginaw. One of the most famous photographers from Saginaw. Have both shown interest.
Mm-hmm.
Just a buddy of ours for a long time. It's kind of a goofball. So, lots of comments. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Rate, review. We're not. If you don't like our show, rate us a half star and tell us why, because that'll actually help us in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here now.
Oh no, I'm cool with it. And remember what I always say: adopt, don't shop.
Oh yes.